The year is 2014. 11-year-old me has been doing YouTube for 4 months. Meanwhile, Mr. Scott Cawthon's been working on what will end up being one of the biggest horror games on YouTube, Five Nights at Freddy's, or Five Nights, or FNAF. Before we go any further though, I need to put on my Halloween costume real quick. It's a green screen, I can be whatever you want. I put on a hat because I'm having a not good hair day. Some would argue every day is a bad hair day for me. The entire reason the series is a thing is because of a comment on Scott's previous game, Chipper & Sons Lumber Company, saying that this character looked like a scary animatronic. Up to this point, Scott mainly did Christian games, but then decided to deviate from that path and start working on what would become Five Nights at Freddy's. In this video, I'm only going to be covering FNAF 1 through 4. This is because those are the games I focused on, and anything past that I don't know anything about. The first Five Nights at Freddy's game was released August 8th, 2014 on Desura, an independent game publisher, and on August 20th, 2014, the game was greenlit and released on Steam. The popularity started to come around this time. On August 10th, Yummy Mash was one of the first people to upload a video on this game. People then started suggesting it to Markiplier, and then a couple days later Mark ended up playing it, and in turn giving the game much more exposure than it would have had otherwise. This led to any gaming YouTuber under the sun playing Five Nights at Freddy's because of how popular the game was. The most notable YouTuber to have played FNAF even 6 years ago was Markiplier. Granted, there have been many people who got popular off of FNAF, Markiplier turned into the FNAF guy. For those who don't know what Five Nights at Freddy's is, I'll quickly summarize it for you. You're a security guard who just started a new job at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. You have to survive 5 nights, hence the name, and each night starts with a voicemail explaining the history of the restaurant and what to do.
Hello? Hello?
There's also 4 animatronics, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. Your job is to look at the cameras and try not to get killed by the animatronics. Since it's after hours, the animatronics will assume you're an exoskeleton without its costume on, and they'll forcefully stuff you into said costume. This all lasts until 6 AM, then rinse and repeat. You're back doing the same thing the next day, each day upping the difficulty and activity of the animatronics. So yeah, let's start talking about a game. Oh no, my costume fell off. One of the best things about this game at the time of the release was how different it was to the standard horror games. Yes, the game relies heavily on jump scares as the main aspect of horror, but the atmosphere is creepy as hell. Because it's you and 4 animatronics in an empty restaurant in the wee hours of the night, there's a strong sense of hopelessness and uncertainty.
This like throws off everything I knew about horror, because it used to be that the scariest thing was making me do something that I didn't want to do. By actually making me do something, but now I'm literally just sitting here, doing nothing, but waiting for them to try to kill me. I'm so goddamn paranoid. Frick.
Throughout the entire game, you're stationary. You only have access to the cameras, you can turn on lights and close the doors. There's also a big stressor of the power. Your power is constantly going down depending on how much you're using each of the resources, stopping you from keeping your doors closed all night. If you run out of power, Freddy will play a little song and has the possibility of jump scaring you. But if you're close to 6 AM, there's a possibility of passing the night with the time rolling over during the song. Another cool thing is that each person's experience is different. There's a character called Golden Freddy that very rarely appears, so a person could think that this is an integral part of the story, but in all actuality they just got a cool Easter egg. That's the beauty of each of these games, you'll never know what will happen, it's unpredictable to an extent. You may watch a video about the new Five Nights at Freddy's game, yes, you'll probably get story spoiled, but what happens during the gameplay will more than likely be unique to you. Once you finish all 5 nights and get your paycheck, it surprises you with the 6th and 7th night. The 6th night is just a harder night, and the 7th night is a custom night where you can change the difficulty of each animatronic. At the end of night 7, you get fired for tampering with the animatronics, unprofessionalism, and odor. Mr. Fazbear, I swear I put deodorant on every day this week. 3 months after the release of Five Nights at Freddy's, the sequel, aptly titled Five Nights at Freddy's 2, was released on November 10th, 2014. Not to brag, but that's my birthday, so this was basically a birthday present to me, who never played the first game until a year after the fact, so thanks, Scotty. A common thing with these games moving forward was ScottGames.com. This was just Scott's website to promote FNAF games, and a bunch of YouTubers would make videos analyzing these secret images to look for secrets. For FNAF 2, he released these 5 images, none of which had secrets except for the last one. If you brighten the image, it reveals the puppet in the prize corner. FNAF 2 was the first game in the series I had played. I'd seen videos on the first game but didn't play it until after I played the second one. I'll always hold FNAF 2 higher than the other 3 games. because not only was it the first Five Nights game I had played, it was the first horror game I had ever played. In this game, there's no doors for you to close. You only have the cameras, a flashlight, and a Freddy Fazbear head. For some animatronics, which there are now 10 of, you have to flash them with your light, pervert! Fucking perv. Some you have to throw on the Freddy head and they'll think you're an animatronic, and for one you have to just simply wind a music box. This game's also much creepier than the first one in my opinion. This is because in the beginning it throws you in blind for the most part, and a lot of it you have to figure out as it goes. There's so much to focus on in this game. You get overwhelmed and you're in a vulnerable state. Because your mind is in so many places, you in turn are just more susceptible to the jump scares. I had a stroke, sorry. In the last game, the only stressor was your power going out. In this one, your flashlight can run out of power, animatronics can sneak into your room, and the music box can unwind, which triggers a puppet to kill you. At the end of the 5th night, your name isn't Mike Schmidt like in the first game. In this one, your name's Jeremy Fitzgerald, who was paid November 12th, 1987. Didn't something else happen in 87?
Was that the bite of 87?
Spoiler alert, there isn't only 4 and 5 nights. It's 5 Nights at Freddy's, not 4 Nights at Freddy's. There's a 6th and a 7th night. That's what I was trying to get at. During the 6th night phone call, he says some of the animatronics aren't working right because someone was using a yellow suit and the establishment's going to be shut down. He also brings up when the restaurant opens again, he was probably going to take the night shift. If you haven't played the first or second game, I should let you know that the phone guy is voiced by the same guy in each game. So when you start this game, it's perplexing as to why he's the one talking because he died in the first game.
Day 4, I knew you could do it. Hey, listen, I may not be around to send you a message tomorrow. It's been a bad night here for me. I'm kind of glad that I recorded my messages for you when I did. Hey, do me a favor. Maybe sometime you could check inside those suits in the back room. I'm going to try to hold out until someone checks. Maybe it won't be so bad. I always wondered what was in all those empty heads back there. You know. Oh no.
This reveals that the game's a prequel and clears up any confusion surrounding the phone guy. The 7th night in this one is the same as FNAF 1. It's a custom night, and when you beat it, you get fired for tampering and odor. Who would have thought I'd learn by now? In terms of teasers, there's way more for FNAF 3. Mainly because more people found out about Scott's website. In this image, if you brighten it in the lower right corner, it has a 3. And in this one, the main animatronic Springtrap is floating in the corner. This one's just an ominous message, and that's it for interesting pictures. So let's just talk about the gosh dang game already. This game was released March 2nd, 2015. Scott's just popping these babies out like a mom with octuplets. Scott over here being the modern day John and K+8. This is Scott over here. In this one, you're still a security guard, but for a horror attraction centered around Freddy Fazbear's Pizza called Fazbear's Fright. This game deviates from the path the other two games followed because there's only one animatronic that can kill you, and there's multiple layers to the map. The camera system has the main cameras that show around the establishment, but then there's also vent cameras. This is to keep track of Springtrap if he goes into the vents, and if you see him in a vent, you can seal the vent. Also, to prevent Springtrap from getting to you, you have to play audio in a different room to lure him out of the room. There's also a systems panel to reboot when your systems go offline. There's also mini games in between each night to further expand the story, but we're not talking about that here, so don't even try it. If your ventilation system goes offline, there's a chance of getting a jump scare from one of the phantom characters. These characters will jump scare you but won't kill you. These jump scares can be from within your cameras, outside your window, or in the corner of your room. The only animatronic that can kill you in this game is Springtrap because he's the only one that technically exists. One thing I don't like about this game is Springtrap's jump scare. He just walks up to you and makes a slightly alarming sound, which is the least intimidating thing in all 4 of the original games. This makes this game my least favorite because it lacks the charm the first 2 had. Unlike the other 2 games, this game has 2 endings. You're more than likely going to get the bad ending first, because to get the good ending you have to unlock secret minigames from clues within the minigames between each night. I could talk about these, but I don't want this video to be a million times longer than it already is, so I'm just not gonna. When you beat Nightmare Mode, which is the equivalent to the 6th night in the other games, it reveals that Fazbear's Fright was burned to the ground. Authorities are looking into it being foul play, and salvaged items from the fire will be sold at an auction. There were 7 teaser images released for this game, all within the same theme. This game revisits the idea of something talked about since the very first game.
Was that the bite of 87?
This game came out July 23rd, 2015. It starts similar to the FNAF 3 minigames, all leading up to a supposed party. These will be at the beginning of each night and are essentially just playable cutscenes. You play as a kid and you're in your room late at night, scared like a little bitch baby, and animatronics are running rampant. Mechanically, this game works a lot different than previous games. When you have to listen for footsteps and breathing, and if there are, you have to close the door. You also have to check behind you for little rabid Freddys that form into a big Freddy if you don't shoo them away with your flashlight. You also have to check the closet to make sure your Foxy plushie doesn't turn into a big, tough, spooky Foxy. The animatronics also look way scarier. They're all withered and beefed up in the terror department because you play as a young child. This game in a way is an ode to the original game. Bonnie's on your left, Chica's on your right, Foxy's hidden in the closet which resembles Pirate's Cove, and you forget and rarely see Freddy throughout this game. This game redeemed the series for me after the disappointment that was FNAF 3 for this fact. But to get back to the topic of jump scares, the jump scares in this game are great. The animatronics are scary as hell. The jump scare is in relation to your own failure of shutting the door or not shining a light on the Freddys on the bed. I absolutely love the use of scares in this game. On the 5th night, the only animatronic you have to worry about is Fredbear. This night works like any other night, but instead of the normal animatronics, it's Fredbear in their place. After this, we get to the party. The kid's on the ground crying when the kid's brother and some other bullies decide to lift him up and bring him to the animatronics. They say the kid wants to give Fredbear a kiss. He ends up in Fredbear's mouth and the kid is rightfully flailing around, and the Springtrap locks down and bites the kid, thus birthing this meme.
Was that the bite of 87?
However, this wasn't the bite of 87, this was the bite of 83. In one of the cutscenes you can cycle through the TV channels and one of the shows is labeled 1983, so there's 2 bites. 2 bites too many. The 6th night plays as any other night prior to the 5th night until 4 AM. At 4 AM it changes to be only Fredbear. After this night there's a cutscene where Fredbear tells the kid that he's broken, but they're still his friends. He says that he'll put them back together, and the kid cries once all the animatronics fade away. At the end of this cutscene, there's the sound of a heart monitor flatlining, implying that the kid is dying as he's thinking this. It's theorized that this means that Fredbear will infuse the soul of the kid into the suits, but I was unable to find a concrete answer as to what this meant. After this, there's a 7th night, which is just like the night prior, where it switches to be only one animatronic at 4 AM, but instead of it being Fredbear, it's this guy, aptly and simply named Nightmare.
Nightmare, 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 nightmare.
Once you beat this night, you're greeted by a locked box. You sit there looking at it for a little bit, and then text fades in saying some things are best left forgotten for now. According to a post on the FNAF wiki, Scott had code for the box to open after clicking 10 times on each lock, but this code was never finished.
Was that the bite of 87?
One of the things Five Nights at Freddy's is most known for is its fan theories. When the game first came out, there was so much theorizing because the story itself was fairly vague. I'm going to talk about the original fan theory that is still unanswered 8 games later, the bite of 87. Some people think that Foxy caused the bite. This is because Foxy is the only animatronic that had sharp teeth, and his mouth is constantly hung open almost like it was broken in some accident. People also think it could be Freddy. This is because there's a poster that says one mustn't touch Freddy. Also, there's hand-like markings on Freddy's face, which implies that someone tried to push him away. And I never noticed this before, and it kind of makes me think Freddy may be responsible for the bite. There's also a theory that Mangle did it. This is because her jump scare in FNAF 2 looks like a bite and she's on the ceiling. This makes it easier for her to bite someone, and she seems to be a more dominant character in the later games.
But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
What makes this game great is that no game is the same. There are certain elements that carry over, like the cameras and staying in place, but those are elements that make the game special. Even then, those things are only in the first 3 games. In the 4th game, there's no camera and there's movement. Regardless of these facts, each game innovates upon the last. This series was super popular when it first came out, which is indicative of the close releases of the first 4 games. This series still has a super dedicated fan base and has for the last 6 years. Fuck off, Siri! It shows from the fan theories how invested people are in this series and solving the mystery of Freddy Fazbear. The Freddy Fazbear story isn't over either. In September they released a teaser trailer for the newest game, Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. There's still so much to be discovered within this story, which is awesome because I'm sure when Scott made the first game, he didn't expect it to get as big as it has, and probably didn't expect it to be a series, especially not one of this caliber. The series has gone from a "you're going in the other room" Siri. This series has gone from one guy working on a small indie horror game to an actual dev team working on one of the biggest well-known horror series. He also probably didn't think people would be as invested in the story that they'd want to read books about this story and make fan game using elements that he came up with. The books aren't even something I want to come close to talking about because that's a whole other can of worms and I'm barely able to contain the worms within this can. So to summarize the last 10 to 15 minutes, Five Nights at Freddy's was a special series that got the community to rally together for one central goal: finding out why the fuck Balloon Boy exists. Why does he exist? Fuck him! Boo! Sorry to scare you again, but it's October, what do you expect? Hi, welcome to the end of the video. Crazy how that works. I just wanted to let you know that since you came to the end of the video, you probably give somewhat of a shit about me. So, I figured I'd let you know that this Saturday at probably, I don't know, times on screen, I'm gonna be playing some horror games, including the Five Nights at Freddy's games, over on twitch.tv/TheDarkWolfShow. The same color as this, that's what the color Twitch is. So yeah, come on over, hang out for a little bit, watch me get scared by playing Five Nights at Freddy's and some other games. I don't know how many games I'm going to play, I don't know how long the stream's going to be, but it's going to be a bigger stream than normal and a longer stream than normal. So yeah, come hang out on Saturday, Halloween, at this time. Come hang out. Okay, bye-bye. Boo!